Hi guys, and welcome to another Q&A. I'm Cassie, and this is Eric, my husband.
Hello.
All right, so I hope everyone had a great Christmas and Merry Holidays or whatever you celebrate. Let's see, I'm gonna pull up the comment section so I can read your questions if you have any. Do you have it pulled up?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right, hi Michelle. Okay, so I'll wait for a couple of you to hop on and then I'm gonna start tonight by talking about how to come back from a cheat meal, cheat day, cheat week, or never doing keto. I know a lot of us, especially coming off the holidays, might have indulged a little bit, whether you ate keto foods but didn't track and so you had too much to eat, or you just went crazy and had non-keto food for Christmas, and that's fine. So I guess let's start there. So whether if you cheated at all during the holidays or anytime really, how to come back from that, from the ketosis and get back into ketosis. So the first thing that you need to know is don't punish yourself. Don't starve yourself to get back into ketosis. That's not healthy and it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work for you long term. The best thing to do for cheat meals is to plan for them. So if you know you're going to have a cheat meal, that's fine. You know that tomorrow when you weigh in, you most likely are going to be up in weight. It's going to be water weight for the most part. You're going to be out of ketosis, and it's going to take some time to get back into ketosis. For most people, it's 2 to 7 days to get back into ketosis. It's longer for the newer people, and even some people that have been doing keto for a while, it might take a little bit longer. Now, there are ways to get you into ketosis a little quicker. You can do cardio, that helps. You can do intermittent fasting, so that's not starving yourself. That means you'll have your first meal generally around 10:30 or 11, and then you'll have an 8-hour window to eat, and then after that you'll stop, and there'll be 16 hours from the time you stop eating till the time you start eating again. So intermittent fasting is great for that. You can do, mute that. You can do high fats and very low proteins to help get yourself back in. There's a thing called a fat fast that some people do use to get back into ketosis quicker. That pushes you into nutritional ketosis. So you do that by doing 1,000 to 1,200 calories, and 90% of those calories are coming from fat. So with that said, it's not something you want to do long term. That's something you would do for 2 to 4 days. And then knowing when you're back in ketosis, for those of you that monitor, you can use a blood keto monitor, you can use a breath monitor, you can use urine strips to check and see when you're back in ketosis, or you can assume after 7 days that you were in ketosis if you're not someone that's monitoring. Drink plenty of water. Some of you will be going through keto flu again if you've cheated for quite some time. Some of you will have cravings again. If your cravings had gone away and you were finding that you were less hungry very often, you may find that you're hungry more often after a cheat meal, that you are craving, chips or chocolate or whatever your carb of poison is. So that's gonna restart again. And there's nothing wrong with the cheat meal. People want to do them, after you've been keto for a while, they're not as appealing. You need something to really something really good to push you. So that's kind of all I have to say about cheat meal and coming back. So let's look at some of the comments.
I'm right here if you want.
Okay, so we'll start with Allie, looks like, let's see. All right, Caitlin, how about coming back from a cheat 2 weeks? Well, same process. You want to make sure your macros are correct. You're going to eat to your macros. You're going to make sure you're measuring. You don't want to go over protein. You don't want to go over calories. You want to drink plenty of water. And when I say that, I'm talking 1/2 ounce per pound you weigh, up to 180 ounces a day. That's very important with keto to stay hydrated. You may want to, for a week or so, cut out artificial sweeteners and keep dairy low. Those are all things that'll help. And throw in some cardio if you can. Hello from Ontario, Canada. I have a lot of Canadians on here, so hello. And some Australians too. All right, Mary. Why does it take 2 to 6 months to become fat adapted when it only takes 2 to 7 days to get into ketosis? I'm not 100% clear on exactly the difference between the two. Do you want to take that one?
Sure. So in 2 to 7 days, you can become ketotic. That's correct. Usually it's closer to the 7th day, especially if you're newer for ketosis. But fat adapted means your body is very efficient at burning fat for fuels. So as you're in the ketogenic diet and you're regularly ketotic, your body becomes more and more efficient at doing so, which is why you often have to adjust your macros, because when you start, you may have higher calorie, higher protein, higher fat. You should still stay about 20 grams of carbs, even when you're starting and even when you're ending. But generally speaking, your calorie requirement lowers because your body becomes more and more and more efficient at using every single calorie you're taking in, especially in the form of fat. So that's sort of what it means to become fat adapted. Your body's used to burning it. It's transitioned into making that its main fuel source, dependably so. And you actually tend to enter back into ketosis quicker after a cheat day when you're fully fat adapted. That's sort of the difference.
Mm-hmm. Like for instance, we both had a cheat meal this holiday week, and after mine, I was up 7 pounds. That wasn't a pretty face. And it was mostly water weight. When I woke up in the morning, I was a bit surprised that it was so high, but then I went business as usual the next day, and then I woke up the next day and I was only up 3 pounds. So tomorrow will be the next day and I'll wake up and see where I'm at. I tend to drop my cheat meal weight pretty quickly, usually within 3 to 5 days, and then I get back into ketosis pretty quick as well. But it's different for every person. Let's see. Hi, the hardest thing for me is that I need food already prepped for me or almost prepped. I just don't have enough time and I hate to use a lot of frozen stuff. What are your thoughts on that? There are a lot of really quick meals you can do. Most of the cream sauces that I make are really quick to put together. So for instance, the other day, I took pork chops out, but I didn't really plan what to use with them. So I made a quick cream sauce, just heavy cream, a little chicken broth, a little bit of Parmesan Romano cheese on it, some Italian spices, fried it up, and then fried up the pork chop in another pan, tossed it into the pan with the cream sauce, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then we ate it and it was delicious with some spinach. You can cook meals in under 15 minutes. If you have a grill, that's really quick. You can grill up some barbecue, and I like to use a 0 carb dry rub, but you could do barbecue chicken thighs, and then I like the vegetables that are steamable, so you just pop it in the microwave and you can steam it. That's really quick. Throw some butter on it. There are companies out there that will send you already prepared meals. You just have to heat. There are a couple that are more gourmet meals. You do pay for the convenience though, so it is going to be more expensive than if you were to cook yourself, but if you're someone that can't cook for yourself and doesn't have the time, that might be something you want to look into. I can link them in here too later if that's something you're interested in.
But if you have that kind of money, feel free to send it our way.
Exactly, send it my way. Let's see. Have you yourself had any hair loss while doing keto? And if so, what supplements, if any, do you take to help? So I don't know if you guys can tell very much, but I have super thin hair as it is. And it's processed because I go blonde. So I have no hair to lose. If I were to have thinning hair, I would be bald. A lot of people that say that they have the thinning hair, and there aren't very many people. You might see it on some forums, but it's not a vast majority. They are not doing keto properly. Many of them are coming in and out of ketosis very often. Others are not having vegetables. They're doing primarily a protein-based diet, so they're not getting their micronutrients in. And in addition to that, some people do need to take a multivitamin, and it could be as simple as, a $10 drugstore vitamin. It doesn't have to be anything expensive, anything elaborate, anything you need to sign up for a subscription or, anything like that. It's just a quick multivitamin. I take a prenatal vitamin. I'm still nursing, but you could just do a woman's multivitamin and that's fine as well. Eric, when he remembers, takes a men's complete multivitamin. I also take magnesium and potassium, but it's completely up to you what you choose to take. Having enough vegetables, spinach, and broccoli in your diet definitely helps with that. So I personally have not noticed any hair thinning. And in the cases where I've read about people that have, I find that when they explain what they're eating and how their keto experience is, they're coming in and out. They're not being strict with it. And they're not really doing a keto diet so much as a low-carb diet. All right. What are your thoughts on the egg fast? I am not a big fan of the egg fast diet. I would rather do the fat fast because there is more of a more variation to that diet. You can basically have anything that's keto friendly that fits into those macros. So you could do a bulletproof coffee for lunch, bulletproof coffee for breakfast if you're gonna have breakfast. And then for dinner, you could do a salad with a little bit of chicken on it, some feta cheese, some ranch or blue cheese dressing. You could do something else for dinner. You could do macadamia nuts, just as long as 90% of those calories are coming from fat.
So what's the problem with the egg fast?
I don't like the egg fast because I find that it's boring. There's not a lot of room, but also nutrition wise, there's not any micronutrients in it. But what do you think?
And eggs are typically pretty high in protein, so your protein to fat ratio isn't really where you want to be if you want to push yourself into a good ketosis.
How can you get rid of water weight?
Sure. By continuing to manage your macros and making sure that they're really where you need to be, and making sure, it sounds counterintuitive, but making sure you drink enough water. Your body will retain water if you don't drink enough. And if you're not sticking to your macros, you can enter the swoosh. And some people enter that anyway, and that's just sort of how they get to the next stage of fat burn. But the swoosh, really quickly, is, if you imagine this is your fat cell, and it's usually filled up with fat. As you lose the fat, your body replaces it with water. And then eventually that drains and drains and drains until it flattens out, and then the fat cell is just basically empty, and so it's compressed, and so you don't appear fat anymore. When you're going through that transition stage, you'll notice that it goes from sort of a firm consistency. If you were to pinch up some fat, it's kind of firm. And then when you're in the swoosh and it's filled with water, it's a little more jelly-like, a little more loose feeling. And then when it collapses, you no longer notice it there. So if you're having enough water, you're keeping to your macros, you shouldn't notice that you're holding onto water weight too much.
Okay, Melissa, if I had to pick one essential item for a keto care package to send a friend, what would it be?
Cassie's website link.
No.
That's what I'd send.
If I was sending a friend, if it's in stock, Chalk Zero milk chocolate keto bark.
That's not an essential item, though.
I don't know. I think it's really, really good. But I guess an essential.
So.
MCT oil.
Yeah.
I think MCT oil. Maybe some good bacon.
I'd send a good butter, because
good butter,
you can do like a lot of your vegetables sauteed in butter. You can use butter in your coffee as part of your fats. You use it in your baking, so butter's good. Like a good Kerrygold butter is good. But honestly, I'd send them Cassie's website link, because she has a lot of good recipes that you can make in 30 minutes or less. If there's somebody who doesn't know how to plan for themselves, she does meal planning. And if they're just sort of looking for a good resource to get themselves started, she has a lot of information on there. So either the Facebook page and or the website, that's what I'd send them.
Okay. Michelle, my hair was very thick. I've been doing keto for 7 months now and just wondered if it would eventually level out. Do you mean that your hair is thinning out a little bit? If so, are you having plenty of vegetables? Do you take a multivitamin? Maybe some of the things that I mentioned a bit earlier might help. Crystal, every time I've previously done this way of eating, I felt very weak the first week. I plan on exercising daily once I start on the first, already in a regular workout routine, but I'm nervous I will not have, I think it says enough energy, it cuts you off. Enough energy, and any recommendations on how to feel better during the first week for those who work out. Yes, so before you go to the gym, I would recommend drinking a cup of chicken broth, not reduced sodium though. Bringing a 32-ounce bottle of Powerade Zero with you to help with electrolytes. And maybe even having a bulletproof coffee somewhat before you go too, because the fats will definitely help you. Once you are in ketosis and working out, you'll want to do a bulletproof coffee before you go. The extra fats will definitely help you with your workout. That's what's going to be giving you your energy. But in the first week, make sure to have enough electrolytes. Keto flu strikes hard in the first week, so that might be what you're noticing, the weakness. So the chicken broth definitely helps, and the electrolytes and the magnesium that you find in the Powerade Zero will also help.
And staying on the diet consistently will also help. Mm-hmm. So I noticed you did say every time I've previously done this way of eating.
In the first week.
it's a good diet to just maintain. You can adjust your macros so that you're not losing weight if you're not trying to keep losing weight, but it's
and
really
you
a
can
good
gain weight.
You can. It's really a good overall way of eating. So
what kind of ranch dressing do you use?
Hidden Valley is what I like. Because
he likes Hidden Valley. I like Marie's. I like a nice thick chunky dressing.
That's a creamy ranch. So if you're looking for just a straight up ranch, Hidden Valley is good because it's some of them are a little bit higher in sugar, whether it is low fat or not. Obviously we don't do the low fat one. I just like the flavor a little bit better.
All right, I like the Marie's. I think it's fresher.
If we're going
it has to be refrigerated.
So does the Hidden Valley once you open it.
Once you open it. No, Marie's has to be refrigerated from the start.
Anyways, if you're going on the cheap, you can go with Ken's too, but I like Hidden Valley.
All right, Kathy, is the breathalyzer more accurate than the blood meter for measuring ketones?
It is for alcohol.
So the blood is the most accurate, followed very, very closely by the breath meter. Now, not just any breath meter. There are ones that you can find on Amazon that are pretty cheap, and they have very mixed reviews. The one I recommend is the Ketonics, and I'll post a link in here for it. That one is used in clinical trials. It's used in clinical settings. To be used that way, it has to be very accurate because they need accurate measurements. So that's what I recommend. It is, for the non-Bluetooth version, is I think $160, but it's a one-time cost. You don't have to use strips or anything like that with the blood. So it's more cost-effective if you're someone that's going to be measuring frequently.
Long-term, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Allie, do you have weekly meal plans to follow on your website? I do. You just answered. Okay. There's also a weight loss challenge if you're interested in it. It comes with a 4-week meal plan. I just opened up the challenge group the other day, but it doesn't start until the 1st. Right now, the prize money is, I think, over $1,000 right now. You get a 4-week meal plan. You get a grocery list. You'll get a private group that I answer all your questions in. And then whoever loses the highest percentage of their weight wins the cash prize, which is 20% of the profits, which as of right now is a little over $1,000. The last challenge I did, the winner won 600 and I think 600, 500 or 600, I can't remember, one or the other. It was a much smaller one though. All right.
What kind of mayo do you recommend? Store-bought? Store brand. Yeah.
I usually just buy store brand mayo. I don't buy anything fancy for mayo. Generally because I'm mixing it into a recipe that you're not going to taste the mayo specifically, so I don't spend extra money on it. Other people prefer olive oil mayo or an avocado mayo. It's completely up to you. I like the store brand just because it's cheap. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. Can you be keto and not count macros? You cannot.
Well,
not really. The odds of you being keto and not counting macros are very slim. To be keto, you have to hit a certain percentage to get yourself into ketosis. Generally, when you're not counting your macros, you're going to go over on protein or calories, and that's going to throw you out of ketosis. And what I mean by that is any protein that's not used for energy, any calories that's not used is going to be stored as glucose, which turns to fat. So your body always wants to use glucose as its energy source. So if there's glucose hanging around, it's not going to use ketones. Do you want to elaborate a little bit, or is that kind of...
No, yes, you can without counting macros if somehow inherently you know roughly what your total for the end of the day is going to be. So if you're somebody who's been on a ketogenic diet for quite some time, most of the time you just sort of know what to eat, and you eat to what you've calculated in the past for your macros to be. At some point you're going to need to make sure you're counting your macros, but long term you can get away from that if you're having success with your routine diet.
Kind of the same for the next. Do you really need to count macros if you use the ketone strips as long as you're losing weight? So the ketone strips, the urine strips, are very inaccurate. They're kind of good in the beginning, but as you become fat adapted, they are even more inaccurate.
The way I look at it is that's the ketones you're getting rid of. That's not indicative of the ketones that are actually in your blood. And so it's the same thing as when a diabetic patient goes into like diabetic ketoacidosis, or type 2 diabetic goes into HONC is the name of it, or when they are shedding glucose. It's the same thing. Your body has more than it's using, and so it gets rid of it in the urine. Your your body shifts it through the kidneys into the bladder, and then you just pee it out. So it's not indicative of what's actually in the blood at that time. In fact, you can be coming out of ketosis and have a lot of ketones in your urine because your body's using glucose now. And during the very first phases of that, if you were ketogenic, you can have a lot of ketones in there and absolutely be not in a ketotic state.
Brandy, once the fat cells collapse, can they refill with fat or do they disappear?
So fat cells never disappear. Unfortunately, once you have them, you got them for life. So yeah, unless you get lipo, in which case, send some of that money my way. No.
Yeah, lucky.
So once you have your fat cells, they're always there. It's a matter of shrinking or collapsing them. They will always be open to receiving fat down the road because that's just one of your body's ways of storing glucose to be accessed later. But if you don't have glucose in your diet, especially in excess, then it's not going to happen. So stick with the ketogenic diet.
All right, Melissa, will using half and half for everyday coffee creamer throw you out of ketosis? Not a tiny bit. I mean, have you tried heavy whipping cream instead? That's lower in calories, it has more fats in it. Have you tried butter? I know it sounds really weird, but if you put butter in coffee and then blend it, that's the key. Put it in a blender, put it on high for a couple seconds, and it makes it very creamy, just like if you were to use a coffee creamer. I mean, butter is essentially dairy that's just been whipped longer.
Yeah, my brother actually showed me that before we even did the ketogenic diet. It's like an old Italian thing, I guess, but it's delicious and it makes it so the coffee's not bitter. So I actually never liked coffee until I started using butter in it. We actually skipped a question.
Oh, what do you eat if you go out for dinner?
We just did that tonight.
We actually did that tonight because I was so busy running around today. I didn't feel like cooking because we were coming home so late.
Although we did take out.
We did take out, just because the kids would have been too tired to go out that late. So we did tonight, we did
Longhorn Steakhouse.
Longhorn Steakhouse. We did bunless burgers with cheese and bacon, tomato, lettuce, although I had like a partial leaf. I don't even know if you can count it as lettuce. It was so small.
Instead of ketchup, I did ranch for the extra
He did
fats.
ranch. I did reduced sugar ketchup from home. I didn't use their ketchup. And then we did broccoli as a side with some butter on top, and we asked them to throw some cheese on it, a little bit of cheese. Now, I didn't have lunch today because I was running around and super busy, so I know I had the protein for it. But generally, if I've had lunch already, I'm not going to have the protein available to have a full burger, so I would have cut it in half and saved the rest for the next day.
I need that whole burger.
Salads. Generally now when you go out, most of the time your portions are going to be larger than what you need. So I recommend when your meal comes out, whatever you choose, cut it in half and ask for a box and put it right in the box of the other half because you don't need it all.
Even if you're not ketogenic.
Yes, even if you're not ketogenic. The portions are just so large when you go out. I like to go out to Buffalo Wild Wings or get takeout from there. We love the wings. There are plenty of wings that are keto friendly. If you go on their website, they actually list all their macros for everything on the menu.
Unless it's like a new trial recipe, because sometimes they do that like every month. It's a new sauce.
Fillets are generally safe because they're not marinated. They're usually just seasoned, not marinated, and it's usually just salt and pepper. Steak tips are not safe because they are generally marinated, and a lot of marinades have some sugar in them. Grilled chicken is generally safe. Just make sure there's no marinade on it or ask what the marinade is. Salads, ask for no croutons, hold the onions. What else? Check with the dressing and see what it is. Blue cheese is generally always safe. Ranch, for the most part, is as well.
Unless they use a low fat, which a lot of restaurants do and they don't tell you. So.
Yeah, and low fat is not. Always look for full fat. For sides, you can always do broccoli, you can do veggies like spinach, green beans. Ask for butter thrown on. You can add a little cheese to it. Cauliflower if they have it. Asparagus. You can have a little bacon thrown in too. Those are some of the things that we choose when we go out.
Have you guys tried the ground beef and butter 3 days to break through a plateau?
I have not,
just talked about
and
that.
Again, it's because I find that super limiting and not very appetizing. I would rather just do the fat fast where you're limiting yourself to 1,000 to 1,200 calories, and 90% of those calories come from fat.
That's part of a fat fast. So that was like the original fat fast.
Yeah,
that people
the beef
did.
and butter was the original version. Some people also do the fat fast where they have a block of cream cheese and coffee all day. Again, I don't find it appetizing.
I like cream cheese, but not that much. Guess I really need to start counting macros. Learning a lot from you guys. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. What about Chinese? I love Chinese food. I made this the other day. It's posted on there. My husband's probably one of his favorite dishes I made so far. I made sweet and sour chicken with some cauliflower fried rice. It was so good. I've also made General Tso's chicken before. I've tried pot stickers. I did not share that recipe because it looked horrible. My husband said it tasted really good, but it did not look good at all.
Not photogenic.
I wasn't a big fan of it.
You also made, if you like Asian food, like Indian food.
Egg roll in a bowl.
Oh yeah, she
egg roll in a bowl is easy.
She also made a chicken tikka masala. We found actually a really low masala sauce.
Yeah,
that's
it's pre-made.
It's a lot of ingredients to try to make yourself, especially if you don't cook Indian food.
And expensive.
And then she did a cauliflower rice, and it just absorbs the flavor of the sauce anyways. And then she made her own naan, and I think
I did post that. Yep.
Yeah, and it was delicious. It's not the same as regular naan, but it was so good.
Sweet and sour chicken, if you're going to make any of my recipes, try that one. That's really good.
So good. I literally drank the sauce.
After he was over there with a spoon drinking it, I was like, oh, that's disgusting.
No, it's not. It's delicious.
All right.
Do you take a magnesium and potassium supplement? If so, how much? Hold on. Cassie commented on this earlier. No reason you can't get magnesium, potassium, and calcium from food. Spinach, there's no problems you can't solve with spinach. And avocados are another one that are very rich in those two things. With that said,
yes, I do take a magnesium and potassium supplement.
You don't take a potassium supplement?
I do take it. It's in the cabinet.
It's in your multivitamin.
No, it's a special. Go open the cabinet.
Oh,
don't tell me what I'm taking.
Potassium supplements suck. They're like chalky.
Okay, well, I do take a potassium and a magnesium. If you want to get them out, you can show them what I take. I take 2 of the magnesium ones and 1 of the potassium.
I'm not a huge advocate of supplements. You should be getting it from your food. If you follow Cassie's meal plans and stuff, it's going to be in your food.
All my meal plans have the right vitamins. I just like to take it just to be on the safe side for me personally. Eric and I differ on several things in the keto diet.
Just really on the supplementation.
I mean, if we're going to be honest here, even though he's the medical provider, I'm the one that makes all your meal plans and answers all your questions. So who do you want to ask? All right. Shouldn't you be careful of cheese from restaurants since it's usually shredded? So shredded cheese does have a little bit of carbs.
It's a type.
They're not putting very much on it. It's mostly to keep it. The carbs that are in shredded cheese, it's very minimal. It's to keep the cheese from sticking together.
Yeah, it's a type of starch that just keeps it from binding. If it's fresh grated cheese, it's not a problem.
And you can always ask if that's something that you're concerned about. You can ask if it's fresh grated or not. But for the little bit amount they put on, especially tonight, it was incredibly cheap. I'm not worried about it.
Cheap in that there wasn't enough. Not cheap isn't cheap food, but.
Stephanie, is there a list of far foods we can eat? Far foods of probably approved food, maybe.
Yeah, just foods we can eat.
I don't have a list that I've made. Let's see. Rule.me has a list of foods that are approved for the keto diet. Basically, you want to look for things that are low glycemic. You want to look for things that are low carb.
Say fat foods.
Oh, fat foods. Oh, yeah. So MCT oil is great to increase your fats. I like mozzarella cheese sticks. Butter, adding butter to things. Fat bombs. That's a big thing. People love fat bombs on keto because it's like a little sweet too.
Some good fat bombs.
Mascarpone cheese. I like mascarpone cheese with a little sweetener in it. A little vanilla. It's really, really good.
But the ketogenic diet's not a list of ingredients, unfortunately. It's looking at your total macros and finding foods that fit within that. Does that mean if you have 20 grams of carbs, you should use 11 of them on one slice of bread? No, that'll throw you out of ketosis. But you should be spreading out the nutrient breakdown throughout your meals and then staying within your macros. So it's not really a specific list of ingredients. There are no-nos like don't eat sugar, don't eat honey. Don't eat regular bread. We use like a Joseph's flaxseed pita wrap because it's 2.5 net grams of carbs.
Which some people, now the keto community is split right down the middle. There are some that say absolutely no wheat, absolutely no sugar added. Now there are recipes where there's a very minute amount of sugar that's added to it. And generally if it's something I recommend like the Joseph's pita wrap, I've tested myself to see if it's something that throws me out of ketosis. Now just because it doesn't throw me out doesn't mean it won't throw you out. But most people, and I've read about people's experience with Joseph's, most people can have a half a pita. That's 2.5 grams of carbs. That's not something you should be having every single day. So it's the Joseph's pita, the flaxseed bread. It's a specific one. You'd have half of the pita, so it's a circle, you have half. And that's okay, but maybe once a week, not every single day. So you do want to limit that, just like you want to limit the amount of sweets you're having, even if they're keto-friendly sweets. You don't want to be eating, 50 cookies a day, even if your macros allow for it. That's a lot of sugar alcohols.
I want to be eating it, but you can't.
So take that into consideration.
Can I eat however much dairy I want as long as the net carbs are under 20? A lot of people online talk about how dairy kicks them out of ketosis, hence my concern.
So you want some type of balance. I don't say that my recipes are very heavy in dairy, but I do use lots of heavy cream for sauces, some cheese. If you're, now it does kick some people out of ketosis, and that's people that are literally just eating cheese nonstop. But it's not everyone. There are people that are intolerant to tofu or soy, and that'll kick them out of ketosis. It really depends. Everyone is different. You could try having cheese, what you feel is a moderate amount of cheese, and if you seem to be getting kicked out of ketosis, you could limit it to maybe a half a cup of cheese a day, or just try to keep your dairy to 1 meal per day. But I'm kind of the school of thought of try it and test it and see if it works for you, because everyone is different. Also, a lot of people will blame foods for kicking them out of ketosis when it's not necessarily the food, but the amount of food that they're eating. And it may not be that specific food that they think is kicking them out. So I recommend testing if that's something that you're concerned with, either urine, blood, or breath. Blood and breath are going to be the best to tell you if a certain food is kicking you out, but do what's in your budget. All right, Indian love 2. Can you use curry?
Most of them you can. Most of them are very low in sugar. They come from mustard or things like that, and those are very low glycemic and low in sugar. So most, but you have to check the nutrient breakdown of whatever spice or sauce you're using.
Ellie, is it possible to do this well if I'm slightly lactose intolerant? There are dairy alternatives. There is a shredded cheese that's dairy-free that most supermarkets carry now that tastes really well. You can use almond milk instead. You'll just have to use a thickener to make it thicken like heavy whipping cream does. You can add some xanthan gum to it to help thicken it.
The other thing you can do is actually get yourself allergy tested, because some people have a mammalian milk protein intolerance, which is very different than being lactose intolerant. And so you may be able to tolerate cheeses and things like that, but you may not be able to tolerate ice cream or milk products. So there is a difference, and it may be worth it for you to get tested for your type of intolerance by an allergist.
What is the best way to measure ketones if not the strips? The best is, the very best and most accurate is blood. The Keto Mojo is great. I'll post a link for the Keto Mojo after this. And then the Ketonics is the breath. That's the next best after blood. They're very, very close in accuracy, but blood is the most accurate. And I'll post a link for both of them, actually. Can I
Is
post
everyday
right now?
use of Swerve? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't, just so it doesn't accidentally boot us off.
I will post in the comments after, so if you want to check for those links, I'll post them in there.
Is everyday use of Swerve safe for small children? I don't know that they've done a long-term study on the use of things like erythritol or xylitol in children. What I will say is that the ketogenic diet has only really been studied in the pediatric population in the setting of seizure disorders. If you have concerns regarding that, you can always talk to your primary care provider, but what I'll tell you is, from what I could find, there's not really any research on the long-term effects of the use of sugar alternatives, even good ones like erythritol or xylitol or stevia, which are sort of the top 3 because they come from natural sources, don't cause a glucose response or insulin response or things like that. But that's sort of more of a medical question, so definitely talk to your provider about it and go from there. How do I figure out my macros? We're going to be posting a bunch of links at the end of this, just so you guys know. Cassie's going to post, she'll post her website, she'll post the macro calculator, she'll post some of the other sites that we use in order to get some of the products that we get for the ketogenic diet. So just hang on until the end, ask your question in case there's a specific site or thing that you want posted, but she'll post a bunch of those at the end.
So I just posted up the breath meter and the blood meter.
How do you know how many macros you should have? Is there a site or something that can teach me? Yes, we use the ruled.me calculator. Look for it in the comment thread, but again, we usually post them at the end. just so that people can see them all at once. Can you tell when your body is in ketosis? Like, do you feel a certain way? Well, you can tell when you're entering ketosis because the keto flu, but no, really it comes down to monitoring with blood meter, breath meter, urine strips. The best, of course, like Cassie said, being blood meter followed by breath meter. My kids go out for ice cream. Is it safe to have a small amount of sugar-free ice cream if we eat out somewhere?
If it is low carb, double check, because for instance, Cheesecake Factory makes a low carb cheesecake. It's actually super high in carbs. It's more than my entire daily allotment, but it says low carb, so you would assume that it's safe. Make sure that the ice cream that they're serving is sugar-free and low carb. You can buy Breyers. Breyers makes, it's called Carb Smart. They make a keto-friendly ice cream in small amounts. You can make your own ice cream. It's pretty easy. It just takes a while to freeze. Halo Top is okay in small amounts, and there's another one, but I heard it's not very tasty. I haven't personally tried it. I think it's called Winks. That one I heard is not very tasty, but it is low carb.
Mary Weaver, what was that M word you mentioned about dairy intolerance? Mammalian milk protein intolerance. It has to do with the specific protein structure that surrounds, I don't think it's actually lactose. It might be galactose. It's actually one of the proteins that's found in mammalian milk, but not specifically in human milk, which is kind of odd because when they did some research on, it's like anthropological research. I think that's the right word. So basically human studies. And by age 2, most of us should have developed, believe it or not, a lactose intolerance. But really, it's a mammalian protein intolerance. And it's specific to other mammals' milks. But you really shouldn't develop an intolerance to your own mother's milk. So mammalian milk protein intolerance. And that sort of corresponds with Erica Thiel's question or comment. Hi, I could never eat ice cream or drink milk, but I'm eating cheese and using heavy whipping cream. What you said makes total sense. It actually confused me a bit. So that's why.
All right, what is your sweetener of choice?
Wait, you missed one. Oh, no, you didn't. Sorry.
My sweetener of choice is Swerve or erythritol.
Swerve is erythritol, but it's a specific brand.
It has a little stevia in it.
Yeah.
Swerve does. Erythritol is just pure erythritol. And then I like xylitol. He does not like xylitol just because of...
I like it, but my gastrointestinal system does not appreciate it.
Xylitol can be harsher on some people, cause them to go to the bathroom very frequently.
Your body will not absorb it to try to use it, and so it rushes it through the gut. And for some people, it can cause some diarrhea or gas or bloating. It doesn't usually cause stalls. Swerve, which is, like Cassie said, a very small amount of stevia and mostly erythritol. And erythritol and xylitol all come from natural sources, or should come from natural sources, and aren't going to cause a glucose spike. Oh, sorry, not glucose spike. I keep saying that. Insulin spike. Thank you.
All right. How long do you have to wait for the urine strips to show the results? For example, it's darker if I wait 2 minutes rather than 40 seconds. I would go by whatever the package says. For mine, I wait about 30 seconds to a minute. But whatever your packaging says to do, that's what I would follow.
They usually change pretty quick, but if it gets notably darker, make sure you check the package for the recommendation. What is it?
Also, they're supposed to be used within a certain time period of opening, so make sure that they are still good too.
Yep. It should say that on the package too. What is a fat bomb? Will this help me? Is it a snack or a coffee creamer? I'm new to this.
Fat bombs are snacks. They're treats. We probably have some in the freezer. Do you want to see? I make a lot of them. I throw them in the freezer. They are high-fat treat. Usually there's cream cheese in them. Some of them have chocolate. So let's see what we have here.
Cassie has truffle one.
These are peanut butter chocolate truffles. Let's see. Where's the camera on my phone? Right here. Like this.
And I'm just doing
it's covered in chocolate with some nuts.
Peanut butter with a little bit of sugar-free chocolate.
I throw some chocolate chips in there too.
Oh. So good.
It's usually higher in fat, low in protein, and has some calories in it.
The truffle one's a little rich for me. That's why I'm going with the...
But this is one specific one. This is a peanut butter chocolate. That's one of my favorites. I have cannoli fat bombs on my website. I have cookie dough fat bombs, which are a big fan favorite.
She does another peanut butter.
The peanut butter chocolate bars. The peanut butter chocolate balls are his favorite. These are peanut butter chocolate truffles. They're a little rich for his taste. I like them. The dog sees something outside, I guess. So that's that. Shannon, how do I calculate my macros once I start? This is the one thing I'm not educated on for the keto lifestyle. Please help. I will post a link right now to the site I use. If you're one of the people that are in my challenge, I do all your macros for you. So if you are in my challenge, don't worry about that. When you send me your information, I calculate your macros for you and send them out to you. If you're not in my challenge, this is the link you would use. Here we go. Macros. Make sure to put at least a 20% calorie deficit. Make sure to not underestimate the amount of, not overestimate the amount of activity you do. Your activity will change how much protein you get. If you were someone that is, for the most part, sedentary, but maybe goes for a walk at lunchtime, that is not light activity or high activity. That's still sedentary. So take that into consideration. Do not overestimate, because if you have too much protein and it's not getting used, like we said, it'll turn to glucose, which turns to fat, and that does not help you.
Sorry, this computer's being annoying. You mentioned you have kids for a family. Do you do non-keto meals for your kids? I worry about the sweets stuff, especially because of the artificial sweetener.
So our daughter, for the most part, isn't a sweets person. I mean, other than fruit snacks. She'd rather bread or chips or something like that. Or fruit. She's a big clementine person. I mean, she can go through 100 halos in one day. As far as regular foods, meals, for the most part, she does eat keto friendly. She'll eat whatever we're having for dinner. For lunchtime, it really depends. She likes salad, so she'll have a salad with me, or she'll have a sandwich and she'll use bread. And breakfast, she could have, you know, bacon and eggs with us, but have some toast. She could have bacon and eggs. She could have oatmeal. Lunch and breakfast, I give her whatever she wants that's, you know, healthy, and good portion sizes. But as far as the sweets, she never really asks for them. If she wants a bite, we'll give her a bite. But I think just like for you as well as kids, you don't want to be having too many of them just because, you know, it's like a regular sweet. You don't want to give your kids a whole bag of cookies. Just like you wouldn't want to give them a whole bag of, you know, artificial sweetened cookies. It's kind of the same thing, all in moderation.
And I don't know what you do because I'm not home when you're home with them most of the time, but I don't really give her any of the artificial sweetener type snacks for a couple of reasons. One, they're generally more expensive. Two, she doesn't like sweets, so why give her the more expensive one? And three, there isn't research on the effect of artificial sweeteners long-term on kids. And even though they're coming from natural sources and there's no noted effect on adults from the three that we typically use, I don't know. It's just something's off-putting about doing it to a kid.
She'll still chocolate chip or something for me, and that's about it. Sometimes she'll take a bite of something I've made, but for the most part, she's not really interested in it.
Yeah.
The cookie dough fat bombs are amazing. My go-to for a snack. And they store well. I like to keep them in the freezer. I forgot we had fat bombs in the freezer.
Yeah.
It's good to keep things on hand if you're someone that likes to snack. If you have something sweet in the house, it's great because you're not going to go to something un-keto friendly and you're not going to binge on, you know, a bunch of different things if you have one thing that's going to, you know, satiate your sweet tooth.
I'm going to backtrack because you just said something that reminded me of something for the other question regarding kids. Try, especially if you're new to the diet, try not to be overly accommodating to your kids' wishes, especially with the chips, bread, things like that. The Joseph's Pita flax wrap, the flat out bread, that's another bread we've used. Some of the really lower carb breads that don't have artificial sweeteners or things like that, and some of the lower carb food choices that aren't artificial sweeteners, they're just good whole food choices. It's totally fine for your kid to eat, because at least for me, it's a lot harder to say no every time you open up the cabinet or pantry or fridge than it is to just say it once in the grocery store. So I kind of try to live by that. Cassie accommodates that.
Well, I bring regular whole wheat bread into the house for her because she likes her toast, and that's fine. But we don't buy candy at the grocery store for our kids or things like that. I mean, at Halloween she'll get it, at Christmas she gets some, but we don't buy it for her. All right. What was that?
I don't think we answered that one yet. Same here on the macros. Do you need to weigh all your food?
You don't specifically have to weigh it. And this part is something that you can be a little more lenient on. You might just measure your food. So if I say a cup of this, a cup of that, you might just do a cup. Some people want to know what it is to the gram, and so they'll measure it when they're putting their recipe into MyFitnessPal. They'll say, I added, 17 grams of avocado. They want to be very, very accurate. It's really up to you for that part. There's going to be some variation there, but it's not going to be huge. Some people really, really want to be accurate. Other people's are a little more lenient with that. I have a scale. I generally try to weigh my food so it's more accurate if I'm posting macros. But sometimes when I made a recipe very often, I won't measure.
And if you're if you don't want to measure to the gram or something like that, and you're just going by cups or one large avocado or one large egg or whatever, you can always just round up when you're calculating your macros, meaning sort of put in whatever your macro calculator is, MyFitnessPal or whatever, that you've eaten, and maybe a little bit more rather than rounding down, and then you'll stay under your total macros.
How do you decide your activity level on the calculator? I do 6 to 8 mile hikes on Saturday and Sunday, and 3 boot camp style classes, 1 hour each on the weekdays. You do, so you do 3 boot camps throughout the week, plus you do a 6 to 8 mile hike on Saturday and Sunday. I would say that, hold on, let me pull it up. If I had to guess for that, I would say moderate activity for that. I would do moderately active.
But it wouldn't hurt you to say lightly active, though, because if you're not doing it every single day, your rest days or your days off, you're gonna go over on your macros, and that can cause a little stall.
So what I would say to do is do the moderately active, and then at the bottom, how much protein do you want to consume? I would do 0.8 or 0.9 grams. So I would keep the protein lower still. That way it balances out.
I have a sit-down job. I do walk for 70 minutes a day. Where do I fall? So if you're walking and you're not jogging, you're not really at a brisk pace, you really should still do sedentary. Because unless you're really getting that heart rate up and getting to the point where you're breathing a little bit heavier, you're breaking a sweat, and doing that every single day, it doesn't even technically account for 20 minutes of rigorous exercise, which is what lightly active is. So
if you do
I do commend you on doing that activity, yes. Though. That's not to diminish what you're doing. It's just in terms of calculating macros, you have to give yourself a little less credit to make sure that you're not going too high.
Or if you do really want to put lightly active, do lightly active, but make sure that your protein is adjusted. I would keep it at 0.7 or 0.8 grams of protein. All right. Hi, Nana Nini. What is your determining factor whether you use erythritol versus xylitol in a recipe? In my house, it has to be erythritol because my husband doesn't tolerate xylitol well. It gives him gestational discomfort.
Gestational?
Sorry, not gestational.
Not pregnant.
Gastrointestinal discomfort.
Also, if you have a dog, xylitol can be toxic to dogs. So erythritol is the better choice if you have a dog in the household.
Or be very careful.
Just say...
Yeah.
It's inevitable he'll get into it at one point, so just do erythritol.
I feel that xylitol is tasteless and cooks very, very similarly to sugar. It doesn't have an aftertaste as well. Yeah. Whereas erythritol is tasteless but has that cooling sensation after. So if you were to have something with erythritol and then have some water, you might notice your mouth feels cool. That doesn't bother me at all. Some people it bothers.
So 6 days a week of intense working out for an hour would be moderate since it's not every day of the week.
What do you mean by intense working out? Is your heart rate up? Are you doing HIIT training? I would really need to know more specifically, but based on what you told me, I would say moderate activity.
And that's not, again, it's not to diminish your activity level, but if you look at the description of what is very active, that is somebody who in their job, which is presumably 8 hours a day, is very active. So somebody doing construction is the example they give, or an industrial worker, civic engineer or something like that, that's really exerting themselves all day, and they exercise on top of that. And believe it or not, those people exist. Not very common, but they exist. So moderate activity really accounts for what's probably rigorous activity you're doing, but you're not doing it for 8+ hours a day.
Marsha. Thanks. Best site for ketogenic life. Thank you very much. Mr. Magoo. Hi guys, I'm ready for the next challenge, baby. Great. I'm like your spirit there. Shannon, what's the last day to sign up for the weight loss challenge? The last day is
Today,
midnight on the 1st, so make sure to get in before the new year. And that goes to the next another person's question, Raquel. If we sign up for the weight loss challenge, when and how will we be added to the group? You're added, so every day I'll go through and add the people. It's not instant because I have to add you manually. So say you sign up at 9:22 and 9:45, you're not added yet. It takes me some time, especially if I'm sleeping and you sign up. I'm not gonna wake up in the middle of the night and add you. So it'll be sometime during the day that you've signed up. If you haven't been added and you have signed up, generally it's because your email might have been entered incorrectly or my email was sent to your spam folder. So go ahead and just send me a private message letting me know that you didn't receive it, and I'll resend it and help you find it. Mary, so 6 days a week of intense working out. We just add that one. Okay, what is the cost of the challenge? The challenge is $45. It's an 8-week long challenge. You get a 4-week meal plan, you get grocery lists, you get some substitutions, you get the private challenge group, which for most people they like the most because you get support. You can ask questions any time of the day. We do weekly weigh-ins, and you have to videotape yourself, and it just comes to me, no one else sees it. And that gives you some accountability too, but also whoever loses the highest percentage of weight wins the cash prize. It's 20% of the profits, which right now is a little bit over $1,000, so it's a pretty big prize right now. All right. What?
It's huge.
Sorry. All right. So I say we're pretty much at an hour, so I think we'll cut it off. Does anyone have any other questions before we end?
What do you use to determine your body fat percentage for the calculator? I just found an image online showing men different
Scroll
body fat
down.
percentage.
Women are after the men if you keep scrolling.
Yeah, so there's the little I next to the body fat percentage. If you click on that, it's going to say you can use a visual like representation to determine it. They do give male and female. If you're female, make sure you are scrolling down to female. It's very different for the female than it is for the male because of breast tissue and where you store fat's different and things like that. So it is important to distinguish.
Where do you sign up? I have a post that's pinned to the top of my page that gives you a link to sign up, but I will also include a link right now on how to sign up in the video. So I'll put it right in the comments right now.
Any other questions before we sign off? Because we're going to wrap this one up. What do we have for time? 52 minutes. No, it's not bad. We usually go way too long with these things. So.
All right. So I say we'll call it a night for right now. I've included the website for the macros, how to calculate yourself. I've included the links for the blood ketone monitor, the breath ketone monitor. I've included a link for the weight loss challenge, and was there another link I was asked to include? I think that's it. So if I forgot something and you need a link, just message me and I'll put that in there. So stay tuned. We do a live Q&A every week, every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So tune in next week, and have a good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Bye.